Captain Bruce CHARD here, Hatch ProStaff, and today I'm going to share with you why I believe building your own leaders, especially for permit today, is really important. Having a good understanding of how the energy transfers from your fly line into the leader is going to be a really big factor to getting that heavy permit fly to lay out straight. So now, we're fishing for permit, right? They're super spooky. They're really, really hard to catch. You know, it's like one of the hardest fish in the world to catch on a fly. Well, why? A lot of reasons I believe they're really hard to catch is not only are they stubborn, but it's really hard to get a good presentation in front of that fish because we're doing two big no-nos. When you're making a cast, there's two things that make it really difficult for your line and fly to lay out straight. One is the length of your leader. The longer the leader that you have, the more difficult it is to get it to lay out straight, especially when it's windy. And when you're permit fishing, it's blowing all the time, 20 to 25, many, many days. So, with that being the case, and using a long leader because they're really spooky, it's really hard to get that long leader and fly to lay out straight. So we need as much energy in the system as we can. So we're going to practice our stance, we're going to put a lot of power into our tight loop cast, and then we're going to be able to contain all that energy because we're going to have a really good leader system that's going to act as a front taper, extension of our front taper of our fly line all the way to the fly, containing all that energy. But then we have the second most thing that's difficult to do in all fly fishing, and that's lay out straight a heavy fly. So now we have heavy flies and long leaders all in the same, and we're trying to huck it into 25-mile-an-hour winds and trying to get it lay out straight. Are you kidding me? If you have any breakdown in your leader connection between your fly line and your leader and how the taper contains the energy in your leader all the way to the fly, you're gonna have a really hard time catching a permit, especially when it's windy. So how do we make a leader that's going to be able to contain all this energy? It starts out with understanding that we pay a lot of money for a fly line, and the main reasons we pay that much money for a fly line is we have machines that taper this fly line beautifully right down to the connection where you're going to connect the fly line to the butt section of your leader. The longer the front taper you have and the smaller the diameter at the end, the tip of the diameter of your front taper is going to reveal a lot of energy that's going to be lost before it gets transferred into the leader. So what we're going to want to do is have a connection from our front taper to our butt section that's going to be as close to diameter as we can get it. And therefore we're going to act our leader as a continuation of the front taper of our fly line all the way to the fly. This will help us contain all that energy that we work really hard to get in the system, and we're going to need every ounce of that energy to roll out that longer leader and that heavier fly, especially into the wind. So I'm going to start out with using the new Hatch 50-pound or 0.029 diameter medium hard monofilament. I like using mono, and we're going to start out with a perfections loop and about an arm's length worth of that 50-pound test. And I like to heat up the mono with my hands a couple times. Usually takes 2 or 3 strokes is all. This gives me a nice connection here where I can work with without too much kinkage. And we're going to tie a nice perfections loop, and we're going to make a loop-to-loop connection to our fly line. So we're going to nice little loop here, come around with our perfections loop. And you can check out Hatch Outdoors for more knot tying videos. Sure. All right, so we got our nice 90-degree tag off that. That's a perfect knot. We're going to trim it nice and close. And we're going to make our loop-to-loop connection. Now, it's important when you're tying these leaders versus a bonefish leader, you want to make sure that you have the butt section that's going to be fairly close to the diameter of the tip section of your front taper of your fly line. Since we're fishing for permit usually on really calm days, a lot of times we'll be using a 9 weight and a little bit of a lighter fly, but we still have a long leader because it's spooky and it's pretty calm. On the other hand, sometimes when you throw a 10 or 11 weight for permit as well, when the weather starts to get a little nasty, probably a 10 weight's more average almost all the time. And then when it's really nasty, you can get away with 11 weight as well. So no issues there, but we're going to do a loop-to-loop connection. Now, a lot of guys say, oh, loop-to-loop knots, you get a hinge with that connection. I don't believe that's the case. What happens is when you get 2 dissimilar diameters connected, you're going to lose a lot of power that transfer there. And when that happens, that's when you get your hinging effect, and you're going to start to lose transfer of energy. So as long as you have a loop-to-loop connection and your diameters are really close, or just a slight breakdown into the butt section, you're going to be able to contain a lot of that energy, and you have a nice smooth loop all the way through. Transfer that energy nice and smoothly into the system. So now, we're going to do an equal breakdown, not only in length, but in diameter. So we went from 0.29 on the 50 pound to now we're going to go down to 40 pounds, 0.26, so 3/1000 of an inch. And again, nice and easy with the length. We're going to do a 6-section leader. Everybody's probably saying, what? 6 sections? I got to tie knots 5 times to make that leader? That's crazy. Well, you know what? You're going to go spend all that money and all that time and all that energy trying to catch the most difficult fish on the face of the earth. Really? I don't want to hear you whining about tying 6 knots. It just doesn't make sense, because you're going to have the ultimate permit leader when you're done with this. All right, so notice this. Lubrication is huge on these knots. You want these knots to seat up nice and tight. We're going to use a blood knot. I'm going to use a 4 and 4 turn blood knot against these 50 and 40 pound tests. And the key thing to making your knots seat up nice and smooth and tight, where you're going to get the best connection possible and the strongest, you got to have lots of lube. You can't just do that alone with your mouth. You have to have added water, which is why I have this little bowl of water right here. So this technique, I think, is also key as well to help make sure that you have a knot that seats up smoothly and it doesn't kink on itself. So we're going to give it a little bit of lube like this. I also lick the end of my fingers and my thumb, and I make a nice connection here between my thumb and my index finger here, which creates some space here, as you can see. Okay? So now I'm going to make loose wraps as I wrap far away. I'm not going to cram that loop real tight. I'm going to do 4 turns, 3, 4, and each time I'm rotating my lubricated fingers in between each wrap. Super easy. Poke the line up on the side. And I'm going to give it a lick on in between each wrap to make sure it gets even more lube. 1, 4 turns, and we're going to come back and go in the opposite direction. I'm going to tie 2 knots here. They're going to jam together. Nice and easy. We're going to give it a little bit of an easy tug, and you can see how that just came nice and smoothly together. So we have lots of space and gap here. It won't come undone now, but I didn't seat it up all the way. I'm going to dunk it in my water so I can make sure that the lubrication gets all the way inside each wrap. So I'm going to pull it nice and smooth and have a perfect knot, nice and easy. What's really cool is when you have really high quality material to tie with, the knots will seat up really smoothly and they won't kink and won't bite into itself. So you can see on this knot that this leader here has no bite marks and everything was nice and smooth. So we have a really strong direct connection with no weak links there to our knots. Beautiful. Couldn't ask for anything more. So now we're going to break down from our 40 pound to our 022 30 pound. Heat it up. And remember, what we're doing here, guys, is we're gradually breaking down the taper of this leader so it contains energy all the way to the end. Any massive breakdown in diameter between these connections will lose the power that we need to keep in the system to make sure that we have enough left over to get that long leader and fly to lay out straight. So again, we're going to do a 4 and 4 on this blood knot as well. So again, I'm going to do this quickly. Once you practice this enough, you'll get it down nice and easy. But the lube is everything. It is everything. If that knot doesn't seat up nice and smooth, you're going to have issues. Again, dunk, there we go. So my son BJ, beautiful, look at that. My son BJ is 19 and he's starting to guide here in the Keys with me. He's working with me on my fly fishing schools and all my hosted trips internationally. We're having a great time together. But one thing that was really interesting is that when I was teaching him how to tie these blood knots, he was getting about half of them to seat up really nice and some of them were not. He was doing everything I was doing as far as the wraps and making sure he had enough lubrication on there and he was getting them smooth up. Well, what was happening was every now and then he'd get one that wouldn't get the end wraps to wrap. So we would double check, make sure the number of wraps that he had were correct, and they were. And what was happening is, not only did he have enough lubrication, and he was tying the knot correctly, the way that he tied the knot with his fingers was different than what I did. So I said, hey, let's just try this, man. Try tying it exactly the way I do with how I separate the knot and make the wraps. And lo and behold, he was tying perfect knots right away and hasn't looked back since. So my point of bringing that up is watch this video and over again if you want, and learn how to tie these blood knots the way I do, or check into hatchoutdoors.com and check our blood knot tying section on those videos, and you'll learn how to do it just like I do, and then you'll be able to tie leaders just like me. So hang on tight here while we're going to now break down to 25-pound test, or 0.020, maybe. Again, break down here. So as you can see, we're going down an equal diameter breakdown as well throughout the whole leader. With an equal taper, just like the front tape of your fly line. And we're going to do a 4 and a 5 turn on this one. So 4 on the 30 and 5 on the 25. Do this again. 2, 4. No problem. 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, an extra one in there. No worries. Let's see what we got. Beautiful. Nice. All right, now we're going to break down from our 20-pound or 25-pound to our 20-pound 0.018, which is only 2 1/1000ths of an inch difference, which is going to be great. Not too big of a breakdown, but just a little one. We're going to contain a lot of energy with this transfer here, which is nice. Again, the pound test is fairly irrelevant here. A lot of times, saltwater anglers refer to pound test to diameters. Just make sure that you understand the mono that you use needs to be fluid with the manufacturer that you're going to use. It needs to have equal diameter breakdowns from one pound test to the next, and that's what we've really worked on here with the new hatch mono here, to make sure we have a fluid breakdown, which makes all the difference in the world when you're making your own leaders like this. So now we're going to do a 5 and 5 turn on this one. 3, 4, 5. Quick and easy. You can hear that little grit. Sometimes the line acts differently in different humidity and different climates, so make sure you get that and you have to seat up nice like that. Perfect. All right, we're almost done here, guys. So here's something kind of interesting. Since we're fishing for the most difficult fish in the world, we want to at least have in our mind that we have the most stealthy tippet connection to our fly as we can get. So we're going to use some fluoro here. Now, here's what's key, guys. This is the difference between saltwater fishermen and saltwater anglers. They pay attention to all this stuff. We have the mono at 20-pound test. It's our last connection at 0.18, okay? Now we're going to go down to 20-pound fluoro, but we're actually breaking down in diameter since fluorocarbon is smaller in diameter, right? We want the smaller diameter, but do we really care if it's 16 or 12-pound tippet? If you do, fine, make the adjustment. But I don't care. I want as much strength as I can get. So I'm going to put my tippet at 20 pounds, keeping it at 20 pounds from the last section, but I'm actually going down in diameter. So I'm still tapering down to the fly and still containing tons of energy. Perfect. I couldn't ask for anything more. So what I got to do here is give me another equal diameter breakdown. If you want to increase this a little bit on a real spooky fish day, that's totally cool. Again, I don't teach where it's my way or the highway. This is just what I like to do, and it seems to work really well. And a lot of my anglers love it too, so I thought I'd share it with you guys, and you guys will like it too. So again, we're going to do a 6 and 6 turn here, or 5 and 6 rather. You do 5 on the 20 larger diameter mono, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do 6 on the smaller diameter fluoro 20. So a lot of times what's interesting, you guys got to pay attention to your diameters. A lot of times you might actually go up in strength on your tippet, but down in diameter. So just make sure you pay attention. So it doesn't really matter. You don't have to go down a pound test and diameter. If you can get away with being stronger, why wouldn't you do that, right? So as you can see, I'm ripping into my hands here on every one. I'm ripping on these knots. They're jamming up smooth and they're not breaking. You want to know why? It's because these knots are seating up really nice and smooth. They're really strong when they're tied correctly, and they're jammed up nice and they're seated where all these little curls are nice and tight and jammed in there. So that's why it's not breaking. So you can rip on a huge permit with this leader system and you're good to go. So here we go, guys. This is my breakdown on my permit leader. We're going to start out with a perfections loop in our butt section with 50 pound. Break down to 40, 30, 25, 20, and then a 20 fluoro on the end. And we should have about 12 feet, and maybe a little bit more. Perfect. And again, if on a super calm day you want to add an extra little foot of tippet on there or do whatever you want, that's what's really cool about building your own leaders. You can actually taper anything off you want. So if you want to add a couple more inches on your butt section, you can do that too. There's no rules. Do whatever works best for the setup that you have and what you want to do. So there is my permit leader. Check it out. And again, check out Hatch Outdoors for more videos just like this.